and I've lost over 130 pounds. And there's a lot of mistakes that I made along the way that made me spend a lot more time doing this entire journey, more time than I needed to spend doing. But there's four things that I wish I would have known when I first started that I know now. And today I'm going to share with you all of these things so that hopefully, if maybe you catch yourself in the same situation as I was back in the day, you start to think about it in a bit different way. And let me know down below where you're watching me from. Say, what's up, Alex? Let me know you're watching me. You can hear me and see me. So, the first thing that I wish I would have known when I first started losing weight before I lost 135 pounds is that it's not going to be quick and it's not going to be easy. And when I first started, I thought that I'm going to just lose all the weight in about a year or so, maybe 8 months, maybe around a year's time frame. And that was the worst possible mindset that you can be in because you never stick to the time frame that you set for yourself. And most people start with a very short time frame because the reality is you're never going to stick to whatever you're doing for a long period of time 100% accurately. It will be like a wave. There'll be good days, bad days. There'll be, maybe you get off track a little bit and there'll be a lot of things thrown at you. So I would just recommend, as a very blanket statement, just stop putting time frames and schedule on your journey. Just take it week after week, month after month, and just work at it. Don't give yourself time frames because what's going to happen in reality is something will happen along the way where your time frame will be just not met. You will feel terrible about it, and then you feel like you're doing something wrong, that you're not as successful as somebody else might be. So don't give yourself time frames. In reality, it's going to take you way longer than you think it's going to take you. Because I thought myself I was going to lose the weight in about 6 months, maybe 12 months, and that was super unrealistic looking back at it from back in the day. But it took me over 4 years to lose the weight. 4 years, over 4 years, maybe close to five. And if I would have known that it's going to take me that long, I would not have taken such a drastic approach. I would not have just made the mistakes that I made that kind of speed things up, because that's the completely wrong thing to do. It's going to take you a long time, whether you have 30 pounds to lose or 130 pounds to lose. Give yourself more time than you need, because if you don't meet a time frame, which you likely will not, you will feel terrible that you can't meet it because somebody else did it before you. So you got to kind of set standards for yourself, right? You will never meet those time frames or those timelines. So give yourself no timeline. Know that it's going to take you way longer than you think it's going to take you, and you will thank yourself later on because you will have a lot less bumps in the road. And this is really important because you may think that you will lose 10 pounds in a month or two, and you may lose 10 pounds in a month or two, but you will likely force yourself. You may just restrict yourself overly to in order to reach those goals, and it will not be sustainable. Give yourself a lot of time and you will thank yourself once you're at your goal. The second thing I wish I would have known before I lost all this weight is that carbs are not evil. Carbs are absolutely not the worst thing in the world. And I don't know how people that don't eat carbs kind of handle their day, because I cannot be that person. I tried to be that person. I've done the keto, the low carb, the Atkins, the minimal carbs, whatever it is. I've done it all, and it is not sustainable. And the only people that are say that it's sustainable is maybe one in a million. It's not sustainable. Carbs are not evil. And I'll give you an example of what my day looked like when I used to think that carbs are bad for me. Is I was ordering food, for example, or somebody around me was ordering food. And let's say they had fries on the table or something. I told myself that fries are bad for you. You're not going to eat them because whatever bad label it is, I put it on it. And then 3 o'clock in the morning when the fries are in the fridge, I just raided the entire fridge and I ate all the fries instead of eating just a few of them and being satisfied. Or with cookies, if I told myself I can't eat a cookie because it's bad for me for whatever reason, I may go into the pantry 3 o'clock in the morning and just eat the entire bag instead of just having one or two when I wanted to have in the first place. Carbs have calories. Carbs are amazing for your performance, especially if you work out. They're a great energy source and they're not bad for you. The most important thing is calorie and calorie management and understanding exactly how much you should be eating, not what foods do you have to avoid. Carbs are amazing for you. And if you think that they're not and they're evil for any reason, then the second that you eat them, you're going to start feeling guilty about it. And you're going to feel like, well, now I ate some bad carbs. Let me just not eat afterwards. And this will be a very, very vicious cycle that will be very difficult to get out of. And let me know down below in the comments if you think that carbs are good or bad for you. I personally thought that they were bad for a very, very long time. And once I understood that calories are not, or carbs rather, are not the enemy and calories have to be managed, it just ignited a different kind of momentum for me that didn't exist before. And the third thing I wish I would have known before I lost 130 pounds or over 130 pounds is that I should not compare myself to others, especially fitness models, athletes, people on social media, in magazines, or even people that I personally knew that were in amazing shape. Because you will, again, set standards for yourself that you can't meet. And the second that you can't meet those standards for whatever reason that you set them for, you will feel like a failure. So be your own comparison. Compare yourself to where you were last week. Photos, measurements, weigh ins, strength, your food relationship, everything. Compare yourself to yourself. You can use somebody else as inspiration, but you are your own person. Stop comparing yourself to others. And I didn't stop comparing myself to others. I only thought that I'm going to look like a fitness model that I saw in a magazine. And no matter how hard I try, no matter how little I ate, which was not a good thing, or how hard I trained 2 times a day, 3 times a day, I could never look like that person because I was not that person. If I was to just compare myself to myself from last week or from last month back in the day, I would have made tremendously more progress. But this comparison to people, first of all, people that you see on social media and magazines, most of them are photoshopped. Half of them are taking hormones, and some are just doing both Photoshop, hormones, and just not, it's not reality. So compare yourself to who you are or who you were maybe a month ago and make incremental changes and compound those changes consistently over time until a point where these little changes become just a massive change that you can look back at and say, wow, like I did that. And that's a feeling that you have to strive for. And the fourth thing I wish I would have known before I lost over 135 pounds is not to make up for eating too much by doing more. This is a very, very dangerous place to be in because if I'll give you an example, if you spend 5 or 6 days eating perfectly fine, whatever that means for you, and then because you know that you're going to be overeating on one day, and then that one day of overeating will be followed by 6 days of crazy restrictions, right? This is not a healthy place to be in. This is a cycle that will never end. And if you miraculously reach your goals by doing this cycle, it will not be sustainable because you can't just make up for doing something by doing something else. This all has to be fluid, it all has to work together. So instead of overly restricting yourself, just eat more and control yourself on the weekends. You cannot be in the cycle of eating a burger and then do an hour of cardio. That's the worst thing you can do. Maybe eating a handful of, I don't know, maybe a cupcake or something, and then do an extra workout today or the following day because you feel so guilty about it. This is not all about physicality. It's mostly about mental and the whole mentality part of this. You do not want to be trapped in the cycle of doing too much of anything followed by doing too much of something else to make up for doing whatever it is that you did or that you ate. It's not a healthy relationship with food. It's not a healthy mindset to be in. I was in that place. And give you another example. I used to go to a pizzeria once in a while uh, after the gym because my friends went there. And I used to have maybe a few slices, maybe a burger at the pizzeria. And after the day after, maybe the day after, I used to just go crazy on the cardio, do an extra hour, hour and a half because I felt like I had to make up for those calories. And what happened was I felt so burnt out. Pretty sure I injured myself a few times because I just couldn't recover properly, and I always felt defeated because I could never be good enough. Whereas, hindsight's always 2020. If I was myself back in the day, I would have just gotten back to the same track I was on before I went to the pizzeria, and just know that okay, the weight will fluctuate, but it's all going to even out in the next few days. I'll be absolutely fine. And this is very important because you do not want to be stuck in that same cycle that will just never end unless you make it end. So hopefully this video helped you out. Now these are my personal things that I wish I would have known before I lost all this weight, and hopefully this video helps you out in any kind of way. And if it does, let me know down below what your biggest takeaway was from this video. And if you want some personal help and some support and guidance on reaching your own weight loss goal, you can shoot me a message on email at alexsolomincoaching@gmail.com. shoot me a message on Facebook, say, coach me, and I'll reach out to you. We'll talk about that. But let me know what your biggest takeaway was from this video. Hopefully, it was helpful. And